So, morning we shall see about the strength of materials. So, strength of material is a field which deals with the ability of the material to withstand load. So, normally a body is made up of molecules. So, when some force acts on a body, the body tends to undergo some deformation. So consider a body which when load acts on the body is it is a normal process that a body undergoes deformation. So it is a well-known fact that each and every body is made up of molecules. So when load acts on the body, the molecule starts to move, and the cohesion between the molecules will resist the deformation. So normally the body tends to deform when the load is act, and the cohesion between the material will resist this deformation. So the resistance by which the material of the body opposes this deformation is called as the strength of material. Okay. So in the strength of material, we are about to see about the simple stresses and strain which acts on the body, and the concept of elasticity and plasticity which results in which are the results of the stresses. Okay. So the strength of material is the ability of the body to withstand the applied load when without failure. So we'll be dealing with the material property, so which can carry load when load acts on it. So since we deals with the deformation of the body, so when a body is subjected to some load, it undergoes some deformation. So as the body deforms, since deformation is involved, we will be dealing with two category of the materials. One is elasticity and the next is plasticity. So elasticity of the material is a property of the material which can regain its original shape when the load is being removed. Right? So consider a rubber band or a material. So rubber band will be a very good example for elasticity. So consider a rubber band. So if you are giving some external load on it, so if you are pulling the rubber band on the other side, so what happens is the rubber band expands. So it expands to the length of the rubber band increases. So when the load is removed, the rubber band comes back to its original position. So the matter here is, so the body elongates, or it will be compressed or elongates on application of some load, and when the load is removed, the body regains its original shape. So this property of the material is called as elasticity of the material. So next is about plasticity. So plasticity denotes some permanent deformation. So you can consider the same rubber band, so same material. So when it is being loaded, so the material, what happens is it normally elongates. So the elongate, when you expand or when you pull the rubber band to a certain limit, so up to a certain limit, when the load is removed, it comes back to its original position. So beyond a certain limit, the expansion of the rubber band will be a permanent thing, and the material will not come back to its original shape. So this property of the material is called as plasticity. So it results in the permanent deformation of the body. So plasticity is a characteristic of the material by which it undergoes inelastic strains. So the deformation will be calling technically as a strain, and this results in the permanent deformation. So permanent deformation in the sense it will not come back to its original shape. Whereas in elasticity, the material comes back to its original shape when the load is being removed. So this is the major difference between elasticity and plasticity. So in plasticity, so the permanent deformation, so it may be an elongation or the compression. So it has major, the plasticity of the material is used for many advantages such as pressing and forging. So it is normally employed in tactile materials. So as example is gold. So when we heat the gold to certain limit, it normally attains a tactile property and it expands, and we can beat that material to the shape whichever we need. So that results in the formation of jewelry. So plasticity is also a property of the material which is also useful for us. So between elasticity and plasticity there is a limit. So up to that limit, when the material is pulled and when it is released, it comes back to its original position. So that when the material is pulled beyond that limit, so it attains plasticity. So that property of that limit is called as the elastic limit. So that is the thing which we have mentioned here. So next is about simple stress. We are going to deal about the simple stresses and strain which are produced in a material. So the first is about normal stresses. So normal stress, so stresses and strain are normally produced on the body because of the external force which are acting on the body. So consider body, so it can be a square or rectangle. So when some external force acts on the body, it results in the formation of stress and strain. Stress is not the force which is acting on the body. It is actually the measure of the internal resistance which the body offers. Okay. So when a body is subjected to a force or a load, when a load acts on a body, it normally undergoes some deformation, and the body tends to be undergo some deformation, and we will be calling it as strain. This deformation will be calling it as strain. So it is actually normal stress is not the matter of measuring the force which is acting on the body. It is the internal resistance which the body offers to that of the force which is acting on the body. So that is called as stress. Stress is nothing but the internal resistance which the body offers to the force which is acting on the body. So it is normally it is not practically possible to measure the stress. So for that we will be calculating the strain, and from the strain we will be calculating the stress which is produced in the body. So normally stress is a measure of the force which is acting per unit area. So when a body is subjected to some force, we'll be measuring that force, and the force which is acting per unit area will be calling it as stress. So direct stress is load by area. So the load which is acting on the area, acting on the body divided by the area of the body, and the unit for stress is Newton per mm square. So Newton is for the load and meter square is for the area. So normally stress is equal to load by area. So that load, for the load the unit is Newton, and for area it is meter square. So Newton per meter square will be the is the unit for normal stress. And this is an example for stress. So normally stress can be a tensile stress or compressive stress. So tensile stress in this body, in the first diagram, we have mentioned the tension force which is acting on the body, and now the body is said to be under tensile stress, whereas in case of compression, the second figure. So the second figure shows the body which is subjected to compression. So normally what happens in the tensile is, as the tensile force acts, the body tends to elongate. So which results in the elongation of the length of the body, whereas in the second case, the length of the body is normally reduced. So it results in the reduction in the length of the body. And what happens is the force normally acts on the perpendicular to that of the plane of the cross section. So in the first body, this is a force which is acting. So it acts perpendicular to the plane of the cross section. So this is the strain. So now this. So consider these two diagrams. So when force acts on this body, the first figure tends to elongate, whereas the second one tends to reduce. So this is called as strain. We'll be calling it as normal strain. When loads are applied on the body, some deformation will occur resulting to a change in dimension. So it is a well-known fact that material expands on pulling, and at the same time it compresses when it is subjected to compressive force. So consider a bar which is subjected to an axial force. So this is the bar which is subjected to an axial force F. So if the bar is extended by dl, so as a result of the force which is acting on the body tends to expand. So here the length of the body is L, and as a result of the force which is acting on the body expands by a length dl. So this is a change in length, and L is the original length. So we will be measuring strain in terms of ratio between the change in length to the original length. So change in length is dl and original length is L. So strain is a measure of the ratio between the change in length to that of its original length. So since it is a ratio of lengths, so original length we will be measuring in terms of meter, and change in length also we will be measuring in terms of meter. Since it is a ratio between two parameters of similar unit, it had strain don't have any unit. So we will be explaining it, we will be denoting in terms of epsilon. So epsilon is equal to dl by L, whereas dl is the change in length and L is the original length. So this is the thing. So as strain is a ratio of length, it is dimensional. So it is a ratio between two lengths. So which is your change in length and to that of your original length. So similarly for a compression, the length gets reduced. So as a result, the length of the body gets compressed. So the length of the body gets reduced. So we will be denoting, we will be using this sign as negative, minus dl divided by L. So the minus dl denotes the reduction in length of the body. So so I have given it in the note. So strain is a positive for an increase in length, whereas it is a negative for reduction in length. So what happens here is both stresses and strain are they both are interrelated. So as the stress increases, the strain will also increase. So next type of stress. So first we dealt with direct stress. In direct stress, we dealt with the tensile stress and compressive stress and the corresponding strain. So in tensile stress, the material will result in the formation of tensile strain, whereas in compressive stress, it results in the formation of compressive strain. So next, we will be moving to the next category called as shear stress. So shear stresses are produced by equal and opposite parallel forces which are not acting on a line. So consider the body which is shown here. So we have two pieces and one force acts in the upward direction and one force acts in the downward direction. So actually what happens is they are equal and opposite, equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, but at the same time they are not acting on the same line. So consider the diagram which is here. So tension, this is also a equal and opposite force, but what happens is they acts on the line of the body. So this results in the elongation of the body, whereas here it results in sliding motion of the body. So the downward force tends to move the body down, whereas the upward force pulls the body up. So what happens is the material slide over one another. So shear stress is tangential to the area over which it acts. So it is a shear stress is a tangential force, whereas direct stress acts perpendicular to the plane of the body, whereas shear stress acts tangential to the body. So this is the shear stress and the corresponding strain. So the change in dimension, the strain remains the same, change in dimension to the original dimension. So this is the conclusion. So I have given you the concluded picture. So consider the body, whose length is L, and this body is subjected to a load P. So this load P pulls the body down, and as a result, the length of the body gets increased from L to L plus del. So L plus del in the sense that is the final length of the body. So the change here is del. So this is your tensile strain. So tensile strain is increase in length. So del divided by the original length, which is L. Whereas in case of compressive, we will be denoting the same, but we will be having opposite sign. So the negative sign denotes the compressive strain, whereas the positive sign denotes the tensile strain. So this is a stress-strain relationship for a elastic body as well as for a plasticity body. So here I have explained for an elastic body, I have taken the stress in the y-axis and strain in the x-axis. So as the stress increases, the strain also increases. So here it shows a straight line, whereas for a plastic body, so as the stress increases, the strain also increases, but beyond certain limit what happens is the stress gets reduced, whereas the strain is also reduced but it will not return back to its original old portion. And at the same time the slope, so if you compare the slope between the two graphs, the slope of the elastic body, the stress strain relationship for an elastic body is common, remains same throughout the graph, whereas in the plastic body it changes. So we shall see about it later in detail. And next concept is about the ultimate strength of the body. So the strength of material is a measure of the stress that it can take when it is used. So normally previously we dealt with the strength of material. So we will be dealing with the force when the body is in action. So when it is in use, we will be saying this is the maximum force which the body can withstand. So that is the strength of material. But we will not be dealing with the maximum load. We will not subject that material to the maximum load. So the ultimate strength is the measured stress at the time of failure. So normally, when a body is subjected to some load, we'll be saying that it can withstand this load. But the material will be designed for some more load, so which we will not be using it all. So the force or the stress at which the material fails is called as the ultimate stress. And normally the body which is designed will not be subjected to the ultimate stress because of the factor, because of the safety concern. So when the body, if a body is having some 100 kilonewton as the ultimate strength, so we will be using that material till 7 or 8. So they will be mentioning when you buy a chair, they will be saying that it can hold 100 Newton or 150 Newton, but the maximum limit of that chair will be 200 or 250. So they will not be allowing you to expose that chair to the maximum limit which the chair can withstand. So if you are exposing that material to the maximum strength or the ultimate strength which the material can withstand, then the material normally fails. So this is called as ultimate strength. So the ultimate strength and permissible strength. So permissible strength in the sense will be said permissible stress is the stress normally which the body will be just they will be mentioning it out. So this is the maximum permissible stress up to which the material can withstand, and ultimate stress is the maximum stress. So permissible stress will always be lowered to the ultimate stress. So next we shall see about factor of safety. So factor of safety is the ratio between ultimate stress and permissible stress. Ultimate stress is the maximum stress which the body can withstand at the time of failure, and permissible stress is the allowable stress. So since it is a ratio between ultimate stress and permissible stress, the factor of safety will always be greater than 1 for a running material. So if the factor of safety for a material is less than 1, it shows that that the maximum bearing capacity of the material is lower than the permissible stress, so which results in the failure of the material. So always the permissible stress should be greater than the always the ultimate stress should be greater than the permissible stress. So the subject or the material which has been designed should be exposed to the stress much lower than that of your ultimate stress. So this is your strain, so which I have mentioned previously. So we must also define strain. In engineering, this is not a measure of force, but it is a measure of deformation produced by the influence of stress for a tensile and compressive stress. So this I have mentioned previously. So it is a ratio between change in length to the original length. Whereas in case of shear load, we'll be mentioning it. We'll be calling it as gamma, and this is measured in radians. So shear displacement x divided by width of the object. So there is a difference. So this is strain, and since we are dealing with the stress and strain, and at the same time the stress and strain which takes place in the elastic and plastic material, so we'll be moving to the next concept called as Young's modulus. So we've seen previously in this graph. So for an elastic material, as the stress increases, the strain also increases. Whereas for a plastic material, as the stress increases, the strain also increases, but beyond certain limit, the stress and strain are not directly proportional. So this is your Young's modulus. It may be explained with Hooke's law. So Hooke's law states that stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit. So normally Hooke's law can be used only for elastic material, whereas for plastic material Hooke's law is non-applicable. So Hooke's law can be employed only for elastic material. So what Hooke's law states is stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit. So Young's modulus is also called as modulus of elasticity, which is also called as stiffness, and it is a measure of how much strain occurs due to given stress. Because strain is dimensional, Young's modulus has the unit of stress or pressure. So what I have mentioned here is Young's modulus. It is a ratio between stress and strain. So from the previous graph for an elastic material, it is clear that stress and strain are directly proportional to each other within the elastic limit. So when it goes beyond the elastic limit, the material will not come back to its original position, and the material will come under plastic material, right? So stress is directly proportional to strain, and in order to remove the proportionality sign, we will be using a constant which is called as E. and this constant E is called as Young's modulus. So Young's modulus E will be equal to stress divided by strain, which is also called as modulus of elasticity. Since it is concerned only with the elastic material, it is called as modulus of elasticity, and it denotes or it measures the strain, how much it occurs when it is subjected to the stress. So as the stress increases, the strain increase, and as the stress reduce, or the stress or the force which is being acting on the body gets removed, the strain automatically reduces. So this is the relation. So all solid materials deform when they are stressed, and as stresses increase, deformation also increases. So if a material returns to its original size and shape on removal of load causing deformation, it is said to be elastic. So if the stresses steadily increase, a point is reached when after the removal of the load, not all the induced strain is removed. So this limit is called as elastic limit. So this is the thing which has been shown in this graph. So for an elastic material, as the stress increases, the strain increase, and beyond a certain limit. So beyond this limit, if the stresses increase, so it results in the permanent deformation. So the material will not come back to its original shape. So that is the thing which has been mentioned here. And this property, so within the elastic limit and the material, the strain gets increased, and as the stress is reduced, the material comes back to its original position. So this property is called as elasticity. And the limit, so the limit up to which this law is applicable is called as elastic limit. So that is the Hooke's law. So Hooke's law states that providing the limit of proportionality of a material is not exceeded, the stress is directly proportional to strain. So that proportionality limit is nothing but the elastic limit. So if you look at the graph which I showed previously, if a graph of stress and strain is plotted as load is gradually applied, so which means the stress is gradually increased, the first portion of the graph will be a straight line. So this is the thing. So the first portion, the relationship between stress and strain is a straight line, and the slope here, the slope of this line remains constant. So if you take the slope at any position, if you can consider the slope at any position, the slope remains constant. So this is the thing. The slope of this line is a constant of proportionality called as modulus of elasticity E or Young's modulus. So slope is nothing but dy by dx. So if you take if you draw the slope here, it is for this line, for the elastic deformation, the slope here is dy by dx. So that is the stress by strain. So here dy by dx, in y-axis we have taken the stress, and in x-axis we have taken the strain. So dy by dx in the sense stress by strain. The slope of this line is the Young's modulus. So it is normally practiced to measure the stiffness of the material. So it denotes the ability of the material to withstand the deformation. So when the load is applied, it undergoes deformation. So because of the cohesion between the molecules of the material, it results in resisting the deformation, and that denotes the stiffness of the body. So the Hooke's law is normally employed to measure the stiffness of the material. So this is Hooke's law. So modulus of elasticity, which is E, is equal to direct stress divided by the direct strain. So we'll be denoting stress in terms of sigma and strain in terms of epsilon. So sigma by E. Whereas in case of shear stress, so shear stress, as I mentioned previously, they are acting tangentially and they are opposite in sign, and they are same in magnitude, opposite side, and it tends to slide the material. And here in case of direct stress, we will be calling it as modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus, which is sigma by E, which is equal to direct stress divided by direct strain. In case of shear, we will be calling it as, it is a ratio between shear stress and shear strain, and we will be mentioning it as modulus of rigidity. Whereas in case of volumetric strain, so if you are considering the volume of the material, so you can consider the rubber ball. So if you compress the ball, the volume of the ball gets reduced, whereas when we release a load, it comes back to its original position. So we'll be saying it is hydrostatic pressure stress, and it is a ratio between the volumetric strain. So volumetric stress to the volumetric strain, we'll be calling it as bulk modulus. So here we'll be mentioning three constants. One is a Young's modulus, second is modulus of rigidity, and third is bulk modulus. So Young's modulus is the ratio between direct stress and direct strain, whereas modulus of rigidity is the ratio between shear stress and shear strain. In case of volumetric, we will be calling it as bulk modulus. So next is about factor of safety. So as I mentioned previously, factor of safety, when we deal about factor of safety, we will be dealing with two stresses. One is ultimate stress and the second is permissible stress. So the load which any member of a machine carries is called working load, and the stress produced by this load is called as working stress. So that is a load to which the machine is being exposed. So obviously the working stress must be less than the yield stress. So tensile strength or the ultimate stress. So the working stress, so that is a stress to which the material is being exposed, that must be normally lower to that of its yield stress. So yield stress in the sense that is a stress which is measured at the time of failure of the material. So at the time of failure, the maximum will be, the stress will be maximum. So the material should not be exposed or should not be exposed to the max yield stress. So it has to be exposed to the stress which is lower than that of your yield stress. So the working stress must be less than that of a yield stress in order to make the material to work properly or to keep the material under safety. So this working stress is also called as permissible stress or allowable stress. And normally if you buy a material in a shop, they'll be mentioning. So if you buy if you ride a car, so the maximum speed for the car may be 180 or 150 km per hour, but they will be saying that you have to run the vehicle at 100 km per hour, 120 km per hour. So that is a permissible speed which a car can run, but the maximum speed will be 140 or 160. So the permissible speed is 120. So when you reach 140 or 160, that is the maximum speed. So it may result in some damage to the car. So that is the thing. So it is a ratio between permissible stress or the permissible, in case of car, it is a permissible speed. So it is a ratio between permissible stress to the maximum stress, so that the material can expose. So factor of safety should always be greater than 1 for the safety of the material is being concerned. So ultimate stress is used for the material, example concrete, so which do not have well defined yield point. So in case of a concrete material, we don't have any permanent we don't have any yield point. So measurable, which is not, we won't be having any well defined yield point, or for brittle material which behave in a linear manner up to failure. So brittle material are those material which break suddenly. So whereas in case of steel, we have some yielding stress. So yielding stress in the sense failure of the material. So the material even carries load after the failure of the material. So whereas in case of brittle material, it fails suddenly. Okay. So this is the factor of safety. And next, the final concept is about principle of superposition. So it states that the effect of several actions taking place simultaneously can reproduce exactly by adding the effect of each action separately. So consider you might be knowing about some cantilever beam or simply supported beam or a continuous beam. So these are the various types of beams which we are normally seeing in set of materials. So consider a simply supported beam, so to which enormous number of loads are being acting. So if you consider a simply supported beam in which some 10 to 12 forces are acting, so the effect of these forces results in the deflection of the body. So where we will not be able to calculate the deflection of the body exactly, since the body is subjected to more than 10 forces. So in this case, what we will be doing is we will be considering each and every single force. So we will be considering the first force, and we will be measuring, or we will be calculating the effect of this force, and similarly we will be calculating the effect of all the other forces, and we will be summing it out. So this is called as principle of superposition. So principle of superposition is nothing but, so when a beam is subject, or when a body is subject to an enormous number of 10 to 15 force, 20 forces, so which we may find it difficult to calculate it. So in this case, we will be considering each and every force and the deflection which is produced by each and every force, and we will be calculating the deflection or the effect of each force individually, and at last we will be summing it out. So the summation of all the effect of these individual forces will give the effect of the all the forces all together. So it is called as principle of superposition. So it states that effect of several actions taking place simultaneously can be produced exactly by adding the effect of each action separately. So the principle is general and has wide application and holds true if the structure is an elastic body. So elasticity I have said previously, and the stress strain relationship is linear. So stress strain relationship remains linear in case of elastic material. So when it is within the elastic limit, the stress strain relationship will be a linear graph, and this holds good for a elastic material, and at the same time the deformation of the material. So deformation normally occurs because of the load which is acting on the body, and the deformation should remain small. So these were the three conditions for a principle of superposition. So yeah, so thank you. So that's all.